Hello, Levis here. Just me and Frecks today, so we decided to change up the camera angle. First off, before we begin, I just want to thank you guys for all the support that you have given us. We finally reached 100 subscribers. We're currently at 103, so we just encourage you guys to continue to like and subscribe and just share our channel as much as you can. So we're gonna recap day one of the NFL draft. So let's get it right into it. So three quarterbacks went in the top four. Bryce Young, number one. C.J. Stroud, number two. And Anthony Richardson, number four. So, Frecks, I ask you, what is your take on Bryce Young going to the Panthers?
Yeah, I think going into this offseason, I think it was pretty clear. Not clear because there was some debates whether it was me, C.J. Stroud, or Bryce Young going one. But I think Bryce Young, in my opinion, was a clear-cut number one. I think he's proven a lot at Alabama. Like we talked about before the show, he won Heisman his first year at Alabama. He's taken them to the playoffs multiple times. I think he's just proven more than C.J. Stroud has. Mm-hmm. He hasn't had as great of weapons around him, even though he's at Alabama. But like, if you just look back at who C.J. Stroud has had at wide receivers, I'm not saying that's the reason he's successful, but I think that does have a big role in why.
He's gonna have C.J. Stroud is literally gonna have 4 first-round receivers. He had Garrett Wilson. He had Chris Olave. He had Jackson Smith and Jigba, who went first round this year. And then next year, Marvin Harrison is going to go first round.
And I'm not saying like Alabama doesn't have the players because we all know they do. But right. I'm just saying that the weapons that C.J. Stroud had around him passing-wise is just a lot more different than who Bryce Young had. And I think he's proven himself a little bit more. I like him off-field and I like him on-field. He's a very composed player, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I really like Bryce Young. Going to the Panthers, like, although there was some debate between him and C.J. Stroud, I do feel like the Panthers really got this pick right. Although there was conversation about his height, and like you've been saying, like he can't grow. You know, Bryce knows the kind of player that he is, so he's just gonna control what he can control. And what I really like about Bryce is how much pride he takes in leading. You know, and the Panthers really haven't had that type of leader since Cam Newton. And I feel like Bryce is ready to turn that franchise around. And with them being the NFC South, you know, that division is not like it's not much comp really. You know, Brady's gone, the Saints are iffy, and then the Falcons. Although the Falcons have been making some moves, we just might see the Panthers and
the Falcons turn around.
Yeah, at 1 and 2 at that division.
And back to Bryce Young's height, I don't really think his height's going to play into much of a role considering that he was at Alabama with massive O-linemen. Right. And I think he's adjusted to seeing over the O-line. I don't think his height's going to be an issue at all. He's proven he's played in the best division in college football. He's played against the best of the best, and like he's done fine. Height was never really the issue with him. It was if anything, it was his arm strength. But I think he's going to get that done.
Yeah. And now we move on to number 2, the Texans taking C.J. Stroud. My take on this is, like, we all know that C.J. Stroud is probably the best pure pocket passer in this draft. And I feel like this is it's a nice fit for them. Like, although in my mock draft I said that they shouldn't take a quarterback if it wasn't their guy. But obviously, you know, they just hid from everyone that, you know, that they liked C.J. Stroud. So they did end up taking him at 2. And my only thing is, like, I just hope that, you know, they don't waste this talent. Because to me, I feel like C.J. Stroud could really be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL in years to come. But, you know, it's just based on what Houston does for him as a franchise, you know. Houston, they were the reason why they went down this route, you know. Trading DeAndre Hopkins for literally nothing, and then, you know, you let go of Watson, and then there's your franchise right there. They had two downfall years, really 3 with Deshaun Watson's final year, and now you reset the clock with C.J. Stroud. So I just really hope that they do what's necessary for C.J. to succeed.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think he is the best prototype passer and quarterback in this draft, and I think that he can succeed. And like what you said with Deshaun Watson, they are getting a retake with this. They're having a part 2, and hopefully they don't mess it up. Yeah, Deshaun Watson had his problems. That's the reason why they let go of him, but he's still playing now, so it wasn't really that. I'm not saying it wasn't a big, but it was kind of a mistake of what they did, especially what they the only good thing they got out of it was not paying him that contract.
Right.
But with C.J. Stroud, though, I do hope that they get him weapons around him. Like you said, the Texans released DeAndre Hopkins, his number one receiver. But even after he was gone, Deshaun Watson was still doing good with Brandon Cooks.
Right.
And I'm not saying C.J. Stroud won't be able to do that, but with the receivers he has now,
Robert Woods is wide receiver number 1 right now.
that's not, yeah. And they let go of Brandon Cooks, too, who was also on the team last year, who played pretty well with Davis Mills.
Mills, yeah.
It's just, although Houston has a whole new front office, whole new coach, so I do think that they're going to fix their pieces up. And, I mean, they got Will Anderson right after it, so I think they're on the right track.
Yeah. All right, now we go to number 4, Anthony Richardson. As you guys know, I'm a Colts fan. I said on my mock draft video that I would have been extremely disappointed if we took Will Levis. I probably wouldn't have been a fan of the Colts anymore. But Frecks, to me, like, we all know Anthony Richardson is a project. You know, he has things to work on. But what I really like about Richardson is, like, he seems dedicated to want to work. You know, he's high praising himself, and you know. There is confidence, but then there's, you know, overconfidence. And I don't feel like he's overconfident. I just feel like he knows what he can be, you know. Richardson, although he only has 13 starts, and, you know, that's the big reason. Like, that's the big thing everyone is talking about. But with Shane Steichen being our new head coach, we've seen the type of quarterbacks that he's been able to develop. He went from Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert and then Jalen Hurts last year. And since Shane Steichen has been, you know, there coaching them, we've seen those guys take a growth step in their second year. So I feel like, you know, it might not be right away with Richardson. He's only 20 years old. He's not even able to drink yet. You know, he's gonna be 21 in May. So, you know, we have time to, you know, develop him. And what I really like is, when he's going to be asking for a second contract, he's still not even going to be 25 years old. So, like, we just have a long window with Anthony Richardson as our quarterback. And, you know, if things go well, I feel like we just might get a Super Bowl out of him. You know, he said that he's dedicated to bringing a Super Bowl to Indy. And I really feel if all things go right, you know, we get the pieces that we need. And we use him how he can be used. And use his arm and his legs all in one. I really feel like he has top 5 quarterback potential. And to me, like, he has a Josh Allen arm. He has a Cam Newton body with Lamar Jackson speed. And like you really don't find those type of quarterbacks really anywhere. And like this is a long shot kind of pick. You know, you said previously, like, Anthony Richardson is a pick where you either get fired or you're staying in that GM spot for a lifetime. And I really feel like that's what it is with Ballard. And with Ballard, you know, we talked about him being on the hot seat. I feel like he took this route because he knows it resets the clock. It gives him more time as a GM. He probably has two or three more seasons, really probably 3 more. But I really like this pick for Indy. And with him and JT in that backfield, it's not even you can't even think about like what Shane Steichen's gonna be able to draw with the option and the RPO.
Right, and I mean, I personally like the pick. I think, like Chris Ballard went into the draft. He knew that he was gonna be a project. Like you said, he's only 20 years old. He has the characteristics. He's like a gift from God almost. Like that combine, he's probably the most athletic, gifted quarterback that's ever been in the history of college football and going into the NFL. He is just a freak of nature. He's 20 years old. He has a lot of room, but like you said, he is a project. He has a lot of question marks around him, but I think he could succeed. He has potential. His ceiling is through the roof. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens with it, and we've seen Shane Steichen develop Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, who I think is probably the most comparison to him. He has a rock of an arm, but my only question we'll talk about later is just his arm accuracy. But I think he can fix that. He just misses like a little on the short throws and medium throws, but we've seen his long ball threat.
Right. And like those are the type, that short throw and medium throws, like those are the type of things I believe that Shane Steichen will be able to fix. You know, that's just all mechanics right there. And with AR, like, you know, dedicated to wanting to get better, I feel like he would have fixed that.
And he was at Florida. Yeah, it's in the SEC, but he didn't really have SEC receivers on his team. Like they were pretty good. He might have had. I don't even think he had Kadarius Toney for a year, but if he did, he wasn't even starting. But he didn't have the receivers that Georgia would have, Bama would have, LSU would have. He had like the low income receivers on the team, and he still made it work. But I mean, we'll see. I think it was a good pick for Indiana or Indianapolis. But yeah.
So now, going into the draft, there's a lot of talk that Will Levis would have been a potential pick for the Colts, but he actually didn't get picked there. And, when you went down the draft, it was like you're like, where will Will Levis go? And I thought he would go to Tennessee. He didn't go there. I thought he'd go to Tampa Bay. Didn't go there. And I thought the last spot, Minnesota, and he didn't go there. So he did end up falling out the first round. So why do you think it is that Will Levis ended up falling out the first round?
I think just his question, like his stats last year. I mean, he has, like we all know, he has an arm. He slings the ball. Like his arm talent that's not the question. It's his decision making and what he can bring to an organization. Like I got a notification last night saying that teams were iffy on his toe or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a play that or how much of a role that plays in. It might have, but. I think that going in, this was perfect for Will Levis. This is the best thing that could have happened to him going undrafted.
Yeah.
He had way too much hype around him. I think even he knew that he wasn't that good of a player.
Right.
But him going out of draft now, it's like, all right, you're not like a bust situation now. Yeah, you had the hype around you, but you didn't go first round. So now it's like, if you do good, it's the biggest like FU to all the other teams that didn't take you. So now you have all the leverage to go out there, grind, and come and shine, really.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. Because if he did go, even if he especially if he went number 4, he would have had the for how much he was hyped. He would have had the most
chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, the most expectation out of any quarterback in the draft. And with him falling out the first round, like you said, it is the best thing for him. And not only will say he'll go round 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't, start right away, he'll probably end up starting throughout the season at some point. But you like you said, he doesn't have that bus label.
Pressure,
Label going into the season. So like you said, it is the best thing for him. And I feel like, although it is real sad that he was for how much the camera was being put on him.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been done.
Yeah, you got to feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, he's a grown man. You got to be able to put this behind. You got to use this
as fuel.
Use this as motivation. And we just seen when Lamar Jackson was drafted, he was the last. He was in the green room, not thinking that he's about to get picked, and he's picked number 32, and we just seen yesterday that he's now the highest paid player in the NFL. So this is only a part of Will Levis' story.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. If he's not good, I mean he's not good. But if he is good, I'll for sure root for him. But I never really didn't like Will Levis. I think he has an arm, and there's no question about it. It's just the hype that people like Mel Kiper were giving him and all that. And even throughout the draft, it was like the 12th pick, and Mel Kiper saying, "Yeah, watch out for dude." Will Levis is not getting drafted top 15 at this point.
Right.
No one else is looking for a quarterback. He was just so high on him, and Mel Kiper is one of the people out there that put Will Levis in the situation. They hyped him up so much. They had him go to the draft. He even said a few months ago, if I don't think that, at the time of the draft that I'm not going to be a top pick in the NFL draft, I'm not going to go. I don't want to be there in the second round not getting drafted. And look what people like Mel Kiper did.
Yeah. So now at pick number 3, the Cardinals ended up trading their pick, and we all knew that the number 3 spot was a potential trade target. But not only did they trade it, but they traded it to the Texans. So the Texans ended up making back-to-back picks. They took C.J. Stroud at number 2, and then they took, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the draft, and Will Anderson. And so you get their top quarterback, and then their top defensive player in Will Anderson. Now, in the trade, I feel like they gave up a little too much draft capital. They had to give up the 2024 first-round pick. Although that is from the Deshaun Watson trade, I feel like they would have they would have liked to keep that. But you know, for if you really like a guy, you're gonna do what you got to do in order to get him. So just a quick little discussion. What is your take on the Texans being so aggressive right away for a team that's rebuilding? You know, letting go of all that draft capital.
I personally love it. You know, you go into this draft, you're going to get 2 generational guys that can hopefully turn this whole organization around. And you know, they just got a new coach, a defensive-minded coach who also worked with Nick Bosa at San Francisco. I think he can turn Will Anderson into like another Khalil Mack who plays on the outside edge and just bullies tackles. And I do think he's going to do that. Will Anderson going into this college year was my favorite player in the college football, and I thought he was going to be the best player in the draft, and he arguably was. And I think he was also the best defensive player in the draft. But like you said, you do lose draft capital, and for a team that is rebuilding, you need all the draft picks you can get. But I just think they got their 2 guys on both sides of the ball set in stone. They got their franchise quarterback, hopefully, and then a defensive guy that will most likely be there long term, that can build around young guys and just bring another level to that defense.
All right, and a team that's in the division with now Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Richardson, you need a defensive end that's able to chase those guys down and give them some type of pressure. And really, the Texans didn't have any type of pressures last year, so Will Anderson will have a major impact. Now we move on to the Eagles, and really we don't have to call them the Eagles anymore. We could really call them the Bulldogs. You know, they love them Georgia boys. So in this year's draft, they ended up trading up to one pick to number 9 with the Bears, and they got Jalen Carter, and then at pick 30, they get edge rusher Nolan Smith, and not only this year did they get two Georgia guys, but last year they ended up getting Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. So you know the Eagles they're just bringing in these Georgia guys, and really, when you take a look at college football, Georgia is always at the top when it comes to defense. So you know you're bringing in these high prospects, and you're just able to fill them in. And not only will they come in this season, but when we see guys like Fletcher Cox go, Brandon Graham go, you know you still have
replacements right there.
Yeah, you got replacements right there for them. So this Philly defense is going to be elite for a very long time, you know. And in my opinion, I got the Eagles, you know, they went to the Super Bowl last year, and it's like, okay, when you go to the Super Bowl, you don't think that you're going to get so many good picks in the draft. But to me, the Eagles won the draft with these 2 picks. For them to just bring in 2 elite guys on the D-line, and in my opinion, I think the Eagles will be back at the Super Bowl.
Right, and I think, like you said at the end there, I do think the Eagles won the draft. I think Howie Roseman did a phenomenal job. Like, yeah, he had that 30 overall pick locked, and if he was going to take Nolan Smith then, like he did, he was going to take him regardless. But the fact that he was able to get a second or a first pick in the draft and have that number 10, but then they traded with the Bears to get 9 and get their guy. I mean, that defensive line is just terrifying
for a team that had 72 sacks last season.
It's like, and you go lose T.J. Edwards and you get Nolan Smith right back. It's just like they rotate. They're reloading really, and like you got to feel for like Jason Kelsey, who's got to go against these monsters every single play. But that's how iron sharpens iron. Yep. That's the reason why they have the best O line in the league, because they in and year out they have a top defensive line in the league, and I mean it seems to keep on coming. And yeah, they definitely have a shot to go back to the Super Bowl, especially with. But my one question though is, they're gonna have to pay these guys at some point, especially with Devontae Smith. His probably a year or 2, right?
Yeah, I think probably after this season. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time before you gotta end up starting to pay. I mean, they paid Jalen Hurts a lottery, and it's just they did clear out some room with like getting rid of the players that they did in this offseason, but it's just these players they're gonna want money soon, and I think they're gonna go all out for a ring in the next couple of years, and I think they will get one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we move on to Lamar Jackson. As I stated before, he is now the highest paid player in the NFL, and In free agency, they brought in Odell, and now in the draft, they brought in another wide receiver in Zay Flowers. So it's really, now that Lamar Jackson has weapons, you got Mark Andrews, you got Lamar's running ability, you still have the elite run game, you now have Odell, you still have Bateman, and now you have Zay Flowers, who is being compared to Antonio Brown like play style for how electric he is. And now that Lamar Jackson has weapons, it's zero reason for us to hear any excuses why the Ravens didn't make the playoffs, why the Ravens lost in the first round. In my opinion, this Ravens team is arguably top 4 in the AFC for how loaded the AFC is, and this is what the Ravens needed to do to get over that hump. We see the Ravens always come up short. When they were in the 1 seed, they got upset by the Titans, and that was the year I thought that they could have gone to the Super Bowl. And then the next season they play the Bills in the divisional round. They lose that round, and it's just like when are the Ravens gonna get over the hump? And now that Lamar Jackson is paid, he has no reason to want to sit out. I feel like this is the season that we really find out if Lamar Jackson. We know that Lamar Jackson is good, but we find out if Lamar Jackson is a really franchise quarterback, and if he's worth all this money that they just gave him. So, what would you define a Ravens season as a failure?
This sounds kind of bold, but if they don't win the division, I think it's a failure. Like I really do. I think there's been a lot of talk saying, "Oh, Joe Burrow has all these weapons. Joe Burrow, that offense is the reason why Joe Burrow succeeds so well." Joe Burrow has the weapons around him, and now Lamar does too. If Lamar can't go in and at least, if he doesn't have a 12-3 record,
I was gonna say 12 wins.
But I still think if they don't win the division, I will call it a failure. But I do think that now we really do see who the true Lamar is. Everyone's been defending him, saying he has an MVP. Yeah, he does have MVP. I'm not taking anything away from him. But that's been really the only defense against him when people come pressure on him like that. And I'm excited to see him. I hope he does do well. But for all this money he has, we're gonna see for a guy that who was considering leaving, we're gonna see who's coming this season now, especially with OBJ. Jordan Addison, who I think was a perfect draft
Zay
pick.
Flowers.
Oh, Zay Flowers. Yeah, I think it was a perfect because you got to go ahead and weapon. We've seen OBJ in the past couple of years who's been injury prone, and so we're gonna see Zay Flowers with Odell Beckham Jr. and Rashad Bateman, and with J.K. Dobbins and Lamar's run game, like you said, I think they have everything they need in my opinion. With Mark Andrews as well, I just think that them and the Bengals will be going toe to toe in that division.
Yeah.
And it'll be a good one.
Yeah, for sure. Like AFC North is always competitive. For like you even could sneak the Steelers in there. Now I'm not saying the Steelers are gonna win the division, but just for how great of a coach Mike Tomlin is, Yeah. So and then you now have Deshaun Watson with the Browns for a full offseason. So there's no telling what that Browns team could look like. So honestly, that the Browns, the AFC North could be like last season NFC East for how competitive it was last year. So we brought up Zay Flowers, and so it was 4 receivers taken right away. Not right away, but in a row. It was Jackson Smith and Jigba first to the Seahawks, then Quentin Johnston 21 to the Chargers, Zay Flowers 22 to the Ravens, and then Jordan Addison 23 to the Vikings. So with those 4 receivers going 4 in a row, who do you think was the best fit?
He is probably the worst of the 4, but Quentin Johnston is, I think, the best fit for the Chargers. I think they love their big body receivers, and like they got Keenan Allen, a sharp route runner. They got Mike Williams, and now they got Quentin Johnston, he's almost like a Mike Williams 2.0. Yeah. And with these 3 receivers that can, we've seen what Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert can do when they're all healthy. With Austin Eckler too. Now they've added another piece in case one of them goes down, because we've seen both of them have been going down with injuries recently. Yep. And that's kind of like a fill-in for them, and I think that he can fit in very well with this Justin Herbert as his quarterback. And he was at TCU. Max Duggan was a really good quarterback last year, but I think Justin Herbert is miles ahead of Max Duggan, and we're going to see what. Sure. But this kind of off topic, Brandon Staley, you got to do something this year.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, the perfect fit, I'm going with Jordan Addison. Another elite route runner to pair with Justin Jefferson. And honestly, I thought the Vikings should have won defense, and I know you texted me that they should have gone defense as well. And but like at the same time, they had to address that receiver position because Adam Thielen is no longer there. You know, you didn't want to go into the season with KJ Osborne as your number 2 receiver. You know, and Jay Jettis is also, he's gonna get double teamed, but now you add an elite receiver who's able to get open on one-on-ones. And you had that with Adam Thielen kind of, but we know that Adam Thielen lost a step, so he wasn't able to do it as often as he was in the past. So now that you have Jordan Addison, you have Jay Jettis, you still have Dalvin Cook. You know, if we know this Vikings offense is still going to be elite because of Kevin O'Connell and his play calling, but it's just like the defense. You know, their defense was the reason why they lost in the playoffs. It's just like when are you gonna address any of these defensive positions? You know, you have Andrew Booth as your cornerback number 1, and you know I'm high on him, but he barely had any reps last season. So you know he is a good corner, but he hasn't shown it at all. He hasn't had many game reps. So you know this Vikings defense may score 40 points a game, but it's probably gonna give up 51. So I don't know. You really don't know what you're gonna get from this Vikings team,
and especially in like an offense or in a division that has been recently getting weapons on the offensive side for all teams. Like the Lions have, I mean, they have weapons all around on the offensive side. And now that the Bears added DJ Moore, the Bears got Darnell Mooney. I mean, it's just like you gotta. I don't mind the pick that they get Jordan Addison. I actually like it, but the fact that you got to find some hidden gem in this draft today and tomorrow with these cornerback positions, or if not, I mean, like you said, you're gonna score as many points as you want, but at the end of the day, defense wins championships, and that's gonna be exploited. I think this year if they don't fix that.
For sure. All right, now let's move on to the New York Jets. As we all know, Aaron Rodgers was traded, so that resulted in them going down to pick 15. And honestly, that hurt them a lot, and it's crazy how much two draft spots changes. So they ended up going Will McDonald the 4th because there was really no other top offensive tackles on the board, and we know that the Jets were targeting offensive tackle. But was this defensive pick a mistake for the New York Jets?
I do think it was a mistake, but I think another mistake was even trading with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why would you do that?
They didn't trade with the Steelers. It was the Patriots.
Didn't someone jump him though?
Yeah,
or jump them.
Yeah,
right.
The Patriots had that 14th pick, and they traded.
I do think
the Steelers.
I do think that if that didn't happen, they were gonna go Broderick Jones 100%. And I think Will McDonald the 4th was kind of like a scramble option. Take him. I mean, he's a pretty good player, but like we were talking last night, like I don't know how good he plays against competition, because I know last year against Texas, like our freshman offensive tackle held him, like he stonewalled him multiple times during the game. And as a freshman, you're getting drafted 15, like Myles Murphy's still there. Well, I don't know why you don't go out and take him, someone who's been getting high praise the whole offseason going up to the draft, and you take Will McDonald the 4th, who honestly I didn't even think he was gonna go to the first round.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a scramble pick, but
for sure.
It's also a boomer bust kind of pick as well. I mean, he could be the next coming of like
Von Miller.
Yeah, like who knows? But
yeah. To me, I feel like this was a mistake for sure because like you said, this was for sure a scramble pick. They got the pick in with it was 30 seconds on the clock, and you know they ESPN went to the draft room, and they were just looking around like, you know, what direction would they go. It was just confused faces on GMs and scouts looks. GMs and scouts faces. Now if it was such a scramble pick, I don't understand why you go defense. You know, your defense wasn't the reason why you guys missed the playoffs last year.
One of the best D lines in the league.
Yeah. It was literally your offense, not it. Mainly because of the quarterback, but also you can address a receiver position or a tight end. You know, Dawson Kincaid was up there, and you know he went to Buffalo, But you're going into the season with Tyler Conklin as your tight end, and although you do have Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, but who's there in the slot? You don't have Elijah Moore anymore. If they would have went Jackson Smith and Jigba, I wouldn't have been so upset about this pick. Because there was no offensive tackles on the board. To me, it's just like you take the best player available that's on the board, and like you said, Miles Murphy was there. Maybe all boards are different, so maybe Will McDonald was their next best player on the board, but to me, they should have known defense was not the reason that that they lost games. It was offense and quarterback play, and if you're able to get Aaron Rodgers another weapon, to get the ball out of his hands quickly because you can't get an offensive tackle. I feel like that's the next best thing to do. And there's only been one offensive player drafted for Aaron Rodgers, and it was a quarterback, Jordan Love, when he was back in Green Bay. So why not change it when he comes to New York? Get him an offensive weapon.
Get him what he wants and what he needs. And
Mm-hmm.
I think part of this decision of Will McDonald was maybe it was kind of put on by Robert Saleh, who's a heavy defensive-minded coach, and like you said, he's worked with stars in San Francisco. But I think even then, you got to go out and I think O-line was probably the what you had to find or something. I mean, you could have went Anton Harrison, but he's kind of like him and DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. They're kind of like, you don't know. I mean, they're good, and they're like one of the best O-line left, and they're going to go today. But
right.
That would have been a reach at 15,
mm-hmm.
and so that they're kind of stuck in a pickle. And I just think that, like you said, I think the smartest choice probably would have been JSN getting Rodgers a weapon instead of rushing to just reload on a D-line that doesn't need any ammunition.
Yep. All right, so let's finish this video off with some quick question and answers. So, first question up, most shocking picks.
My most shocking pick, I think, what shocked me the most, out of nowhere, was the trade that got Will Anderson at 2. I think I just didn't expect that at all. I thought the Texans' game plan was to draft C.J. Stroud at 2 and then get JSN at 12 if he was still there. Or if not, get another receiver and just get that offensive going. But when I seen that the Texans traded back at 3, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I like that. I liked it. People were kind of iffy about it, but I liked it.
Yeah, to me, it was both the Lions picks.
Yeah.
They went Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 12, and it's like, you have DeAndre Swift there, you have Montgomery there. Although they are, kind of injury-prone guys, but it's like Jahmyr Gibbs would have been there in the second round. You didn't have to pick him at 12. I don't know. I feel like the Lions could have went a different direction to better their team. And then also Jack Campbell at pick 18. Linebackers were not talked about at all going into the draft. So, taking him at pick 18, Jack Campbell could play for sure. It's a team need and it's a team fit. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know why take him at 18. I'm sure he would have been there in the second round as well. And I know that they had to give up. I believe they give up pick. They have pick 34. So it's like,
right.
Because
he would have been there for sure.
Yeah, they got that from the Texans. So it's like, I don't know why.
And Jack Campbell, no disrespect or anything, but he just doesn't belong going pick 18. He's a baller for sure. He's the best off ball linebacker.
But just in this draft class.
In draft class. And it just, I don't know. It was shocking. Especially, him and the other Iowa guy too. What overall did he go?
Van Ness, 13 to the Packers,
and that was another shocking pick considering he didn't start a game. But I have some friends in Iowa, and they were saying that they don't Iowa's defensive system is they have a rotation every single play. But if you're gonna go top 15, you'd think you'd start. But I don't know.
All right, so we touched on this question a little bit with the receivers, but out of all the draft, who is the best fit?
Best fit.
For me, I'm gonna let you think on that. For me, I go back to the 4th pick with the Colts. I say Anthony Richardson is the best fit for the Colts. With JT in in the backfield. Shane Steichen coming over. I know he's going to be able to develop AR to his highest potential. And I feel like this is what the Colts needed. You know, we've been in a QB scramble for now 6 years, and we finally have our guy. And I feel, you know, Anthony Richardson's he's ready to work. He's dedicated to putting in the work, and I feel like he's just going to be a great quarterback for us.
I got two. I got Tyree Wilson. He's an edge, Texas Tech. He got drafted to the Raiders. I think he's a great opposing edge complement to Max Crosby. I think specifically in a division that has really great quarterbacks, you need to get after them. Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson. Those are like the guys that you just got to get after, get pressure on them, do anything you can to stop them from staying in there and just causing havoc. And my next one was Darnell Wright, Chicago Bears. I love this pick because if we took Peter Skoronski, I would have just been fuming. He's not a tackle. He's 6'4", 315 or something like that, and he's a short wingspan. Darnell Wright was the perfect pick to go at that point, especially if you traded back, which has a lot of people questioning, but I like the pick. He had 900 snaps, 0 sacks allowed, and 2 QB hits. And Will Anderson said himself that Darnell Wright was the best offensive tackle he's ever won against. So high praise from the third overall pick and my best defensive player in the draft.
Yep. Now the next question, how did this guy fall in the draft? So for me, it's Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez was mocked the top 10 in pretty much every single mock draft. And for him to fall all the way down to pick 17 and fall to the Patriots, it was just like, wow. Like, how the Commanders ended up taking a cornerback at pick 16, but they went Emmanuel Forbes. And Emmanuel Forbes can play for real. But, you know, to me, I feel like Christian Gonzalez is that pure, you know, prototype corner build that you need. You know, Emmanuel Forbes is, I believe he's like 166 pounds. So, you know, although he leads, he has 6 pick sixes in FBS, which is the most in history. You know, you love that type of play from a corner. You know, that playmaker type of corner. But I don't know. I would have went with a shut down corner in Christian Gonzalez.
Right, and like you said, for 166 pounds, this is like big boy ball now. I'm not saying he wasn't playing anyone in college, but like, this is the NFL now. You got to get that weight up, especially when I go hit guys like Derrick Henry, like just those big running backs now. Yeah. My how did he fall was Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame. I think he was the best overall tight end in the draft. Kincaid, he was he's a great pass catcher and all that. Like I don't not understand why he went before Michael Mayer, but Michael Mayer can do it all. He's a great blocker. He's a great catch. He's a great pass catcher, and he does it all really. And he didn't even make it in the first round. He's gonna go early second round, no doubt. He's gonna go today, but I'm not really sure where. But if someone
maybe
keeps
the
passing
Lions
on
at
him,
34.
I had the Lions taking hit at 18, but they took Campbell, and I don't know. We'll see. But Michael Mayer, I don't know. He's my favorite tight end in that draft.
Yeah, and another one for me is another cornerback, Joey Porter Jr. You know, I thought he was gonna be taken by the Giants, but they went Deontay Banks instead. And I also thought the Vikings might have took Joey Porter, but you know, they went receiver. And I'm sure Joey Porter is, you know, the Steelers had the first pick in the second round, so he's probably gonna go there. You know, blood ties right there with his dad playing for the Steelers. Now the next question: who won the draft?
Eagles.
Yep, I got the Eagles as well.
We talked about that a little bit earlier, but I do think that like the way that for a team that was just in the Super Bowl to come back and get 2 first-round picks and have a number 9 overall pick and get one of the best defensive players, top 2 defensive players in the draft.
Yep.
That it's just, how do you do that? And then take another great, highly touted prospect at 32, and it's just.
All right, so the camera ended up losing storage. I'm not sure how, but we were on the last question, and the last question is who had the most questionable picks in the first round. And for me, it was the Packers and the Jets, both teams that ended up flip-flopping picks. For me, you know, the Packers, I feel like that they should have went receiver, you know, get Jordan Love another weapon besides Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. You know, you still got Aaron Jones there, but I feel like if they would have went a top receiver, we would have really been able to see what Jordan Love could become this season. And, you know, if they didn't go receiver, I feel like it should have been a tight end like Dalton Kincaid or like Aiden said, Michael Mayer. You know, like Frecks said, he believes that Michael Mayer is the best pure tight end in the draft, and I feel like that would have been a nice fit for him, especially for how much that the Packers run the ball. Michael Mayer is a great run blocker, even as a tight end, so I feel like that would have been a nice fit for them. And then, like I said, I already touched on the Jets drafting Will McDonald. It was a scramble pick. I feel like they should have went receiver, but instead they addressed the defense. So now I'm passing it to Frecks, and this is his questionable pick.
My pick is not questionable because of the pick itself, because I love the pick. It's just the question around the player, and it's the Colts, Anthony Richardson. I love the pick. I think it was the perfect pick in the scenario that they had. It's just Anthony Richardson still has a lot of question marks around him, but I do think he's going to succeed. I do think that. And I do think that when he gets Shane Steichen to start, he's probably starting day one at the offseason workouts, and he goes in training camp this summer. I do think that he's going to be a huge improvement from right now until next year. I think it's going to go up. And Shane Steichen, he's a QB guru, and I think he's going to do really good things for Anthony Richardson. So, like I said, he's not questionable because of the pick. I think the pick was great over Will Levis. It's just the questions that Anthony Richardson still has with his feet. He said it himself, and his arm accuracy and his decision making. But I think he'll get that solved.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to subscribe, like, and share as much as you can. Thank you.